Welcome. So I'm really glad that you're here. We haven't been in person in 3 years. And I welcome those who also are joining us on Zoom. I need to be louder. All right. How's this? I'll get a little closer. All right, and first, just to remind ourselves that if we have phones that are on, maybe put them on vibrate or turn them off just so they won't be disruptive. If you're on Zoom, make sure you don't unmute yourself. If there were to be an emergency, there's an exit right here at the back of the sanctuary. There's another one back this way, and then there's the one, the route that you came in. So each of you should have received a program as you were walking in that tells you the order of the service, and it will make it easier to understand. You can tell who will be doing what when. I also placed song sheets in the pews so that when we have the chorus singing or at the end when we have the cantor singing, you'll be able to follow along with the words, and that makes it more meaningful. The theme this year is learning from the Holocaust, and I usually have a theme every year, but this year I'm sort of announcing it out loud, just in case you might not recognize it. And I picked that because I think the legacy of the 6 million Jews who were systematically murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators from 1933 to 1945, that's what they would be expecting from us and from future generations. Because if we just simply remember them and the events surrounding the Holocaust, and we don't learn from it, and we don't teach our children about it, or our grandchildren about it, then I don't think we've done enough. And in light of increasing anti-Semitism and the events occurring in the world today, we can easily say that we have not learned enough and we have not educated enough. So we're here to learn together in this hour. We have two of the winners of the Mira Kimmelman Learning from the Holocaust contest with us today, Emily Salco and Chloe Collins. We appreciate them being here. They will share their essays and what they learned from Mira's life. We have a special closing speaker today. It's Robert Fortney. He's the oldest son of Dr. Thomas Guy Fortney Jr., a longtime Oak Ridge physician that many of you knew well. Robert is going to speak on behalf of his father's legacy associated with the experiences of World War II and the Holocaust. We'll also have songs and poetry and prayers because we want to leave you with hope. And we want you to listen really closely and ask yourself later, what did I learn? And how can I apply this to my life? And as Elie Wiesel told us, we are now the messengers of the messengers. We have a full program, and we're going to start off by recognizing a longtime educator of the Holocaust and a good friend of mine, Julie Kinder McMillan. And Julie and Larry, if you'll make your way towards the podium. I'm going to say some personal comments first before I turn it over to Larry. Because Julie is somebody really special to me. So the reason Julie and I know each other is because Mira Kimmelman brought us together. In those later years with Mira, she brought people into my life that were important to her, and she knew that they would be important to me. I've had the privilege of working with Julie as part of the Mira Kimmelman Holocaust Education Study Group, and I've seen her work in her school classroom. I appreciate her 20 years of teaching the Holocaust to students at Robertsville. It takes educators like Julie to make a difference in the life of a child, and those children can go on to make a difference in the world. In fact, one of her students that you'll see today is now also a teaching fellow with the Tennessee Holocaust Commission. Many of Julie's students participated in the first Holocaust contest. Mira once said, there is the capacity for both good and bad in everyone, and we make choices every day. Julie, when I think of you and the life that you live and the choices that you make, I could not be more proud of you. And I know that Mira would be really proud of you too. I'm just grateful to know you. So you guys will come over.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Leibowitz, country lawyer from Knoxville, and chair of the Tennessee Holocaust Education Commission. The commission was founded in 1984 by the Tennessee legislature, and part of its mission is to memorialize the Holocaust and educate our citizens about atrocities then and at other times as a result of bigotry and tyranny. We encourage citizens to rededicate themselves to the principles of human rights and equal protection under the laws of a democratic society. Sadly, we are witnessing every day on television what is a gross violation of every human rights principle I have ever heard. And I encourage each of you to find something to do to help the refugees or to encourage your political leaders to do more, whatever they're doing, do more of it to help stop the aggression. If you look at our website, you will see some suggestions as to organizations you might check out that would be perhaps useful in sending aid to refugees from Ukraine. Now, the commission gets its resources largely from the state. And I can tell you that Governor Lee and Randy McNally, the lieutenant governor from right here in Oak Ridge, are strong supporters of the commission and have been very generous in their support. We work with educators, students, and citizens across the state, but we leverage the resources we have with people like Julie. The teacher fellows are the backbone of our work because whatever we can do, we can't be everywhere. And the more teachers like Julie we have across the state, the more effective we are in bringing in speakers, in bringing in educational resources, and in helping to guide the teaching of Holocaust-related subjects. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to say Kaddish, and there are two things in the back of my mind as we say Kaddish. One is that Thursday, the 28th of April, is the anniversary of the uprising at the Warsaw Ghetto. And the second is that one of our commissioners, a founding commissioner, is a man named Jimmy Gentry, who was football coach and science teacher at Brentwood Academy, a Christian school south of Nashville. And he died this weekend. When he was a 19-year-old farm kid in the U.S. Army, a sergeant told he and three other guys to go down the road and check out an odor. There was something smelled terrible down the road. He wanted to know what it was. And he walked in the gates of Dachau. And that changed his life. He was one of the best speakers that the commission has ever had the privilege of sending to schools around the state. Now, another of our founding commissioners is a philanthropist in Memphis named Jack Bells. Jack is still on the commission. He's well in his 90s. Talk to him all the time, and he's a lot sharper than I am most of the time. Jack and a friend of his, Ira Lippman, of blessed memory, established in 1995 the Bells-Lippman Award to be given to outstanding teachers who have demonstrated leadership in Holocaust education. Julie Kinder Morgan is one of those teachers. She's been a guiding light to many, many students, including Allison Vick, sitting in the second row there in the polka dotted dress, who is a professor of history at Pellissippi State and is our permanent part-time house historian at the commission and is a key member of our team. And she was inspired in this area of study by her high school teacher, Julie Kinder Morgan. So Julie, without any further ado, I'd like to present you with the 1922 Bells-Lippmann Award for Excellence in Holocaust Education and a check. This is the good part. And a check, it should be for $1,500 to spend as you deem that appropriate.
Thank you so much. We'll move now to the candle lighting ceremony. Steve, if you'll come to the candle lighters. So we are going to light 6 memorial candles for the 6 million. Sort of break it down. It's really hard to conceive of what 6 million people are, so we're going to designate them. So the first candle is for the children, and it is going to be lit by Kieran Applegate. With this candle, we're remembering over 1.5 million children who died under the age of 16 in the Holocaust, stripped of their childhoods, their potential forever left unfulfilled. The children had the lowest rate of survival in concentration camps. The next candle will be for the mothers and fathers, and this candle will be lit by Harold and Joan Prowse. If you'll step forward. With this candle, we're remembering all the parents who perished, who tried to protect their children, and in particular, the mothers who went with their children into the gas chambers rather than be separated. The next candle, we'll be remembering all the sons and daughters that we lost. This candle will be lit by Alice Feldman and Albert Good. As we remember all the sons and daughters who perished, we know that so many never had a chance to say goodbye to their parents. Some spent years after the war searching for lost siblings, or a lifetime grieving for them. And the next candle is for the teachers. And that candle will be lit by Julie Kinder McMillan and Allison Vick, her student. We are remembering the teachers in the community who, along with the leaders, were often the first to be murdered. We are remembering all the teachers who continued to teach even when it was forbidden and when punishment meant death. The next candle is for relatives. This candle will be lit by Rebecca Batterina and her mother, Eileen Nober. With this candle, we're remembering all those extended family who died in the Holocaust, leaving some families without any grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins, and some families completely destroyed. And for the 6th candle, we're remembering the resistance fighters. This candle will be lit by Becky Charles and Penny Lucan. We're remembering the Jews who fought bravely as partisans in resistance groups that operated under cover of the dense forests of Eastern Europe. The armed and the unarmed resistors in the ghettos and the camps, and individual acts of defiance that so frequently led to immediate death. Those were the 6 million. The seventh candle is for the righteous among nations. Lighting our candle are Carolyn and Larry DuBois. Honoring the righteous among the nations, an honor bestowed by the state of Israel for non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews from the Nazis. In Jerusalem at Yad Vashem, there are over 25,000 names of these heroes. We also honor all those who stand against hatred of all kinds. Thank you. And the last candle, this we added after Mary Kilman died, and we're calling it the Mirror Candle. And this candle will be lit this year by Emily Salco and Chloe Collins, two students who took the time to read about Mira in her book. And these are winners of the Mira Kilman Learning from the Holocaust contest who will share their essay with us today. We're remembering Mira with this candle for all that she did to share her personal experiences so that others would learn from the Holocaust. Mira impacted so many, including teachers and students of the Holocaust. These two students that just lit her candle are an example of her legacy. Mira says, remember, teach, explain. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you, Steve. And now the mayor of Oak Ridge, Warren Gooch, will read the city's proclamation. Is this better?
Thank you, Ronnie. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege for me to serve as the mayor of Oak Ridge, and it's an honor to be able to participate in this ceremony. I present this proclamation on behalf of the citizens of Oak Ridge. Whereas the United States Congress established the Days of Remembrance as the nation's annual commemoration of the Holocaust, which this year is observed from Sunday, April 24th to Sunday, May 1st, 2022. Whereas 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children, were murdered during the Holocaust. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibility of individuals, societies, governments, and to ensure the lessons of tolerance, acceptance, and respect of all people are taught in perpetuity. And whereas we, the people of the city of Oak Ridge, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, injustice, and tyranny. And whereas it is our collective responsibility to counter the passage of time with education so that we can eliminate the factors that led so quickly from isolation and separation to extermination. And whereas the Jewish congregation of Oak Ridge and the Oak Ridge Universalist Church have partnered together for an interfaith study and now named the Mira Kimmelman Holocaust Education Study Group, led by teachers Julie Kinder McMillan and Steve Reddick, using the memoir by Mira Kimmelman entitled Echoes of the Holocaust. And whereas we therefore declare the observance of the Days of Remembrance with a Holocaust Remembrance program for the city of Oak Ridge on Sunday, April 24th, 2022, in honor of those who died and those who survived, in appreciation to those who teach the lessons of the Holocaust. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Oak Ridge that April 24th, 2022 be proclaimed Holocaust Remembrance Day in the city of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and that all citizens be encouraged to participate in the events in remembrance of those whose lives that were lost forever or affected during this time in our world's history. In closing, I would also offer, on behalf of my house, the following prayer. Dear God, bless the people and protect the people of Ukraine and those who are providing them aid, comfort, shelter, and defense. Lord, we remember the words of David in Psalm 108. With God, we will gain the victory and will trample down our enemies. Dear Lord, so it is promised, so let it be done.
Now we have the chorus from the Unitarian Church coming to sing two songs from the Resistance. These were songs that were really important to Mira and was one of the things she asked for the chorus to learn.
Never say you've come to the end of the way. The leaden skies blot out the light of the day. The hour we alone for will surely appear. Our steps will thunder with the words, we are here. The hour we alone for will surely appear. Our steps will thunder with the words, we are here. From lands of palm trees to far off lands of snow, we come with thanks, we come with grief, with pain and woe. And where our blood flowed right before our eyes, there our power will bloom, our courage will arise. And where our blood flowed right before our eyes, there our power will bloom, our courage will arise. The glow of morning sun will gild the bright today. Night's darkness vanished like the enemy cast away. But if we perish before the storm's begun, this song's a message passed to daughter and to son. But if we perish before the storm's begun, this song's a message passed to daughter and to son. In blood this song was written, not with pen or quill, not from a songbird flying freely as he will, sung by a people crushed by falling walls, sung with guns in hand by those who freedom calls, sung by a people crushed by falling walls, sung with guns in hand by those who freedom calls. In a forest hideout dark and deep, my weary eyes close, but I cannot sleep. I sit and wait and brood, I cry bitterly. Will he ever escape again, be free? Play on strings of pain, a Yiddish melody, please sung for me.
In a forest hideout dark and deep, my weary eyes close, but I cannot sleep. I sit and wait and brood, I cry bitterly. Will we ever escape again, be free? Play, play on strings of pain, a Yiddish melody, please strung for me. Play, play on strings of pain. Will a world of peace ever be?
The Holocaust, a poem by David Cooper. A wound that time cannot heal, leaving a chasm in what was known. Too murky to be understood, too complex for logic to fathom. Some things seem to help to explain. The history of assigning blame to the powerless accused of conspiring to destroy all that was good. Familiar newsreels, impassioned propaganda, true believers marching in step. Silent people not comfortable with making waves, fearfully awaiting their orders.
There was hunger. Yes, there was loss. There was the failure of markets, a refined culture of shattered egos. We have these facts and more, meant to explain, yet nothing brings clarity to what evil hides waiting in the human heart, what impulse lurks silent beneath the mask of civilization, and what of human progress. What has changed? Are we now less inclined to savagery? Are we now participating in annihilation? Are we now too preoccupied to care? Time moves on. A brutal struggle for power continues. There will always be a possibility of genocide. There will always be an opportunity to take a stand.
It is now my honor to read excerpts from a keynote address from Avner Shalev, chairman of Yad Vashem, given in 2015. For those of you who don't know, Yad Vashem is a memorial and a museum to the Holocaust in Jerusalem. The name Yad Vashem means a memorial and a name. It comes from Isaiah 56:5, and to them I will give in my house and within my walls a memorial and a name that shall not be cut off. Title of his talk was Life, Liberty, and the Legacy of Survivors. And to that, I would like to add, and choices, a theme that Ronnie has made very clear today. Recalling the horrible scope and nature of that genocide is the core of Holocaust remembrance. But remembrance extends deeper and further. When the war ended, much of the world rejoiced in the Allied victory, but the Jews who survived could not rejoice. Mourning for their families and communities, scarred by their own horrible Shoah experiences, they could well have become desperate, bitter, and vengeful. And yet, remarkably, they did not. In every place around the globe that the survivors reached, they demonstrated their restored commitment to human freedom and faith in humanity. In the decades since spring 1945, large portions of humanity have come gradually to perceive the Holocaust as a pivotal landmark event for modern civilization. Even regions and cultures not originally related to the events of the Holocaust find it compelling and meaningful. But why? Why does the Shoah, the Holocaust, refuse to become history? Why does it remain so relevant to so many different people? Genocides and other terrible human atrocities occurred before the Shoah and, to our great sorrow, since the Shoah. It is not the specific Jewish identity of the victims that provide the Holocaust with its universal implications. Rather, what resonates so powerfully in our modern and postmodern existence is the shocking ease and speed with which the Holocaust's perpetrators and their ideology succeeded. To this day, we struggle to understand how Nazi Germany and its collaborators were able to implement their brutal and barbaric strategy. The Nazis sought to totally destroy the Jewish people and to impose a ruthless totalitarian regime. This was conceived by highly educated individuals and implemented by a technology-advanced German society. The deadly mentality that the Nazis expressed and executed is not likely to return in its exact historical form of the 1930s and 40s. But as Auschwitz survivor, author Primo Levi cautioned, it happened, therefore it can happen again. Of course, the responsibility for moral education rests not only upon the teachers. Political, economic, and social leaders, like many of you in this hall, and those whom you represent, must also assume responsibility for shaping moral norms and ethical standards. Our world today is plagued with cruel conflicts for dominance and resources. In the shadow of those conflicts, we can and must educate the next generation of citizens and leaders who choose to behave ethically and humanely. To Primo Levi's warning, we add, it did not have to happen then, and so it does not have to happen again. For mankind, there is always a choice.
Remembering Zizette. I had a deep friendship with Zizette Black until she died in 2010. She went on the Facing History trip with Mira Kimmelman and me. Facing History helped her feel she could share her story of survival. This piece that I'm going to read is written by her husband following her death. On this day of Holocaust Remembrance, I write this personal tribute to my late wife, Zizette Vandersloos Larsen Black. Zizette initially survived the German military occupation of Belgium with the aid of the Belgian underground. She was 12 years old when she was given a new name, instructed to never reveal her true identity as a Jewish girl, and placed in a boarding school for Catholic girls. She memorized Catholic prayers, cried herself to sleep while holding a much-loved teddy bear she called Kolo, and suffered from great homesickness for nearly 2 years. As a belated birthday present in 1943, her parents allowed Zet to visit them in their secret hiding place in Belgium. It was Easter Sunday, 1943, when Zet and her parents left on foot for a day-long outing, underestimating the possibility that they might be suspected to be Jewish. That night, they were arrested by Belgian police collaborating with German occupiers, sent to a holding center at a military barracks where others were being assembled, and 3 weeks later, all were loaded into the infamous cattle cars that traversed Europe. They arrived exhausted, frightened, and disoriented in Auschwitz-Birkenau. There, Zizette's mother, Esther de Roos Vandersloos, aged 46, was selected to be gassed immediately. Zizette's father, Henri, and Zizette were granted a temporary reprieve from death by being selected to work as slave laborers in munitions factories located nearby. 2 years later, in January 1945, Zizette was among the prisoners forced to join in a death march under threat of violence from the German SS guards. While she became increasingly weak and unable to continue marching, she feigned her own death by lying down in a roadside ditch, expecting to be shot. Several days later, she was discovered by Allied troops and sent to a military hospital in Leipzig to recuperate. Recuperate she did until August 1945, when she discovered that her brother Marcel had also survived. Brother and sister reunited in Brussels in August 1945. Such is the abbreviated account of Zizette's survival. She very much rejected the notion that she survived by virtue of special heroic skills. She felt her survival was more accurately the result of chance, of luck, and of the mundane. I share that opinion and believe I'm also lucky to have loved her and been loved by her. May we all live lives worthy of her memory and those of the millions of victims of the Holocaust who are honored by today's remembrance.
Auschwitz was hell. The smell of burning flesh from the 6 crematoria that were working around the clock were so awful that I cannot describe it to you. People were walking skeletons because food was very, very scarce, very little, and yet we had to work 12 hours daily or 12 hours night shift. This is just one of the many nauseating descriptions that Mira Kimmelman, a Holocaust survivor and speaker, gave of what her life was like in one of the 5 concentration camps she suffered through as a young Jewish woman. Although many people shy away from the Holocaust, one of humanity's most embarrassing and shameful events, Mira Kimmelman wanted us to know that it is still a part of our history that we cannot erase, and that we should study and learn from it to prevent such a thing from happening again. Mira Kimmelman's story starts in Danzig, 1923, when she was born. My childhood until 10 years was only happy, she explained. Soon, everything changed. At the age of 12, she was forced to leave high school for the mere fact of being Jewish. She learned Polish, one of the most difficult languages to learn, just so she could attend a high school that would accept her. The struggles began to increase as anti-Semitism began to work its way through Miss Kimmelman's life. Every little activity became a new challenge, from having to go through immeasurable efforts to receive an education to Nazis throwing rocks at Jews who were doing nothing except walking to pray. Many Jews tried to leave the country as fast as they could, but it was challenging, as not every place would accept them. When Miss Kimmelman was 15, her family was ordered to leave their home and to only bring the items that they could carry. This meant having to leave everything behind. Valuable possessions and belongings saved up over the years, gone. They only brought what could help them survive: heavy jackets, clothes, and boots. Most people today would find that unimaginable, just as Miss Kimmelman did. Yet the first thing she thought of to bring was her family photos. To her, having family nearby wherever she went was more important than trinkets. Those photos were one of the few belongings she carried throughout her time in the Holocaust. From there, Miss Kimmelman and her family were shipped to Warsaw, the capital of Poland, a place with little to no housing, electricity, or water. Luckily, she had an aunt who lived there who took on the enormous role of housing a total of 2 families, her own parents, sister, and brother, and Miss Kimmelman, her parents, and her brother. It was difficult to live crammed together with few resources in a tiny house, but Miss Kimmelman said, at least we had a roof over our heads. This was one worldview that changed for her, starting to live through gratitude and looking at everything as if it was a gift. Here, she started to truly understand the value of the little things in life, how one should be grateful for what they have and for the very fact of being alive. Later, when they left for the town of Tomaszów, they immediately felt foolish for thinking that it was possible to escape their previous living conditions. Upon arrival, they discovered that all Jews, including themselves, were soon ordered to live in ghettos, which were closed areas of crowded people forced to live in a very small room. It was their everything, their kitchen, living room, and bathroom. Despite this challenge, Ms. Kimmelman mentioned that you can live like this if you are together and if you are supportive of each other. Another worldview that changed for her was the understanding that family was the most important gift and that life would be heavy without them there to help lift the weight. October 1942. The Tomaszów ghetto was emptied and Miss Kimmelman and her family were once again forced to leave their house, sent east to work to become farm and factory workers. In order to reach the train, they walked through cities, and those who stumbled or were too sick to walk were shot. Some people like Miss Kimmelman, her father, and brother were quickly pulled out of line. She says, I did not even have a chance to say goodbye to my mother, who was one of the people being boarded on the train. Little did they know that everybody on the train wasn't being taken to work, but to be killed. This is yet another perspective that changed for Miss Kimmelman, one where she learned that the earth can be a place of dark and horrible discrimination, murder, and fear, and that in order to survive, she would need to live through strength and determination. Eventually, Miss Kimmelman and the rest of her family members were sent to Auschwitz, the largest concentration camp during the Holocaust. People were divided between men and women, which meant that Miss Kimmelman would be left alone with nothing but the family photos that she carried. As people lined up, they were directed to go either right to the gas chambers or left to work until they could work no longer. Luckily, Miss Kimmelman and her family were directed left, but it still meant that they would have to persevere through treacherous labor. It wasn't until Miss Kimmelman was 21 when she was liberated, and by the end, she had learned what gratitude, strength, determination, and family meant in a world of terror. What is Mira Kimmelman's message to us? It's that we shouldn't judge someone based on what they can't control rather than who they are as a person, because it will only lead to death, violence, and guilt. This is the exact thing that Miss Kimmelman wanted to prevent in today's world. Each human being is a different, unique person who has a right to live on Earth. As Miss Kimmelman puts it, if you are hated not for what you are as a human being, but for the color of your hair, or the color of your eyes, or your religion, or your skin, or what your grandmother was, is that fair? This is why it is so dangerous to group people. It is so important that we take every human being for what he or she is. Never grouping people, because if you group people, there is a danger that if you dislike a group, then you are building hatred, and this is the only thing that we want to prevent. We want people to understand that all human beings are very precious. Injustice is persistent, as demonstrated with the ongoing discrimination, stereotyping, and racism that we see in today's world. It's crucial for us to learn the words of Mira Kimmelman: never group people and don't hate them for being themselves. We must always use the strength and resilience that she has taught us, not only for those facing discrimination, but for supporting those fighting against it. While the end of discrimination is far away, by following Mira Kimmelman's message, we can take just a step closer.
Must cruelty always be? Must inhumanity ever be the signature of man? No, we refuse to accept that.
We refuse to give hatred the last word because we know the power of love.
We refuse to believe that cruelty will prevail because we have felt the strength of kindness.
Where there is hatred, may we bring love.
Where there is pain, may we bring healing.
Where there is darkness, may we bring light.
Where there is despair, may we bring hope.
Make this a better world and begin with us.
Babi Yar was, up until that point, the largest single massacre of the Holocaust, which took place in the present-day capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. This is a poem that remains resonant in part because of the extraordinary level of anti-Semitism still to be encountered among Russians, both in the diaspora and in Russia. This was a poem that Mira requested many times to be included in the Remembrance program, and it has relevance to today.
Babi Yar by Yevgeny Yevtushenko. No gravestone stands over Babi Yar, only coarse earth heaped roughly on the gash. Such dread comes over me. Today I feel as old as all the Jewish people are. Today I am a Jew. I am wandering ancient Egypt's lands as a slave, and there I perish, pierced and crucified.
The marks of nails are still upon my flesh, and I am Dreyfus too. I am behind the bars, caught in a ring. I have been hounded, hunted, slandered, spat on, while dainty ladies in Brussels lace squeal as they poke their parasols in my face.
And now I am that boy in Bialystok whose blood runs across the floor. The barroom rabble-rousers run amok, reeking of onion and hard alcohol. Boots kick my body aside, helpless. I have no strength left. I plead in vain while thugs of the pogrom guffaws and shouts, "Save our Russia, kill the Jews!" And some shopman's blows fall on my mother's back.
My own people, Russian nation, I know you are believers in the brotherhood of man, but dirty hands too often dare to raise the banner of your pure and lofty name. I know the good, the kindness of my native land. How vile it is that with no pinch of scruple, those anti-Semites tried to brand themselves a union of the Russian people.
Now in this moment, I am on Franck, transparent as a fragile April branch. And I love. And I need no ready phrases. I need for us to look into each other's eyes.
So little we can see or smell. We who have been denied the sky, denied the leaves, yet how much still remains to tenderly embrace each other in a darkened room.
They're coming. Don't be scared. That's just the clamor of early spring. It is spring coming here. Give me a kiss, quick. Are they ramming the door? No, that's cracking ice you hear.
The wild grasses rustle over Bobby Yard. Tall trees stare down stern as if passing judgment. All things scream in silence here. I take off my cap. I feel myself now slowly growing gray, and I too become a soundless cry for the buried thousands here. I'm every old man shot in this ravine, every child burned in Bobby Yard. No fiber in me will forget this, ever.
Let the glad International blare forth when we have buried, finally and forever, the final anti-Semite on this earth. There is no Jewish blood in me, it's true, but anti-Semites with a dull, gnarled hate detest me like a Jew. Oh no, me truly Russian through their hate.
I first heard of Mira Kimmelman when my language arts teacher posted the assignment in our Google Classroom. I had just finished reading the book Night by Elie Wiesel and was excited when my mom showed me that we had a signed copy of Mira Kimmelman's book in our bookshelf downstairs. My dad had the opportunity to meet Kimmelman when she visited Rockwood Middle School to speak to students about the horrors she experienced during Germany's occupation of her hometown. And now I was able to read her book, watch live interviews, and write about the hardships she overcame to publicly share her message of love and tolerance for humankind. How can anyone survive such horror, such utter torture, and for what? I'm not sure if there's a clear answer to these questions, even to this day. But Mira Kimmelman, a Jewish woman who survived Warsaw and Mazowiecki ghettos, and Bleis and Majdanek, Auschwitz, Nordhausen, Bergen-Belsen concentration camps did. Many people don't know of Mira's story or what she had to go through to spread her message of tolerance, but her message is current for all times. She had her dignity stripped away, slept in filthy conditions, saw things she wished she could unsee, helped friends when they needed her the most, and so much more. But she still chose to retell her story to people who didn't even believe it happened. Mira had her dignity stripped away. She was embarrassed and was humiliated on a daily basis. Mira's life before the Holocaust was full of thriving people and happy families, but now her life was being torn apart at the seams. Mira's life in the concentration camps included being seen naked in front of men who were the only ones allowed to do the inspection when new people arrived at the concentration camp. I cannot imagine how Mira continued through her life in the concentration camps and still had dignity left. A story that had an impact on me was when Mira and her fellow inmates were told at roll call that no one except the kitchen staff were allowed to use the water pump in the women's camp. Mira explained that for weeks they went without water, and some of them drank their own urine just to survive. To think of the women as they stood in the scorching hot weather without water, knowing that if they tried to quench their thirst, they would be shot, is unimaginable. Mira's experience of having to drink her own urine and having to watch her own friends drink their own urine had to be humiliating. In my opinion, Mira persevered through the unthinkable. Mira's description of the living conditions at the concentration camps were extremely disgusting. In Mira's book, Echoes from the Holocaust, she tells the reader, as spring turned into summer, living conditions grew steadily worse. Constant raids into Jewish homes were carried out by the SS or the Gestapo. This statement devastates me because the Jews were totally clueless as to how it was going to get much worse for them as time went on. I can't even begin to imagine what it was like for Mira, sleeping on the cold, hard floor with nothing except a threadbare blanket to keep her warm. Sometimes, to hold heat, Mira and the other women sleeping in the same quarters would sleep together just to keep warm. Mira tells about the rats that would come into their sleeping quarters and bite them repeatedly. Since typhus was caused by fleas, mites, and lice, the chance of getting typhus was very high, because the fleas that were on the rats would pass it on to the humans. Mira's experience with sleeping and living conditions at the concentration camps were extremely unhealthy and terrible. Mira saw many things during the Holocaust that she wished she could unsee and erase from her mind. In Mira's book, Echoes from the Holocaust, she says, "As we waited outside, we saw columns of people marching slowly towards the gas chambers. Young and old, men, women, and children walked in complete silence. They were unaware of the imminent death awaiting them. The gas chambers were basically huge crematoriums for any person who was too weak to carry on in the concentration camp. Mira experienced this selection many times. A selection was when an SS guard would look over all the Jews one by one and see who was fit to continue working in the concentration camp. The day-to-day anxiety, being afraid that you were going to die, must have been unbearable for Mira, and after hearing her story, life didn't even seem worth living. Many of the senior Jews who knew what a selection was told Mira that she would have to walk confidently without any sign that she was hurt. Mira commented in her book that the smell of the gas chambers were horrid and something she wished she could forget. I can't even begin to compare my simple, happy life to Mira's, and I won't. But Mira must have had a source that she was pulling from just to get through each day. The things that Mira saw on a day-to-day basis are things that no one should have to experience. This story that I'm about to tell you stuck out to me because it was so heartwarming and unexpected in these troubling times. In 1944, one of Mira's friends, Lolka, became pregnant, but Mira knew that the SS guards would throw any pregnant women into the gas chambers. Mira and her other friends took action, trying to keep this baby a secret. And they finally did succeed, only to find out that Lolka's husband, Hasiek, had been killed. This courage that Mira had was absolutely the most amazing quality anyone could have when living in these hard times. To me, the story was so incredible, and Mira was very brave to break the rules to help her friend. Mira Kimmelman experienced things that are unbelievable to me. She had to say goodbye to the family she loved. She had all her dignity stripped away. She saw things that no one should ever have to see. She lived in a world of hate, and she felt unwanted in a country that was once her own. While I would like to believe that the Holocaust didn't happen, I can't deny the fact that it did. I'm thankful for Mira Kimmelman's message of hope and tolerance that will live on forever.
On the evening of November 9th, 1938, anti-Jewish violence erupted throughout Germany. Over the next 48 hours, rioters burned or damaged more than 1,000 synagogues and broke windows of more than 7,500 Jewish businesses. Some 30,000 Jewish men were sent to concentration camps. In its aftermath, Jews realized they had no future in Germany. It was called Kristallnacht. The Ballad of Crystal Night by Peter Wurtzman. My folks came from Vienna 40 years ago. Said it was a cultured town. Where'd all the culture go? I only hear the echo. I don't know.
Oh, the fine old-fashioned doctors knew all there was to learn. The same men could recite their Greek and watch the fires burn. Burn and thank God it's not their turn.
'Twas the 9th night of November, 1938, skies aglow with fire, and the crowd aroused with hate. Did you sleep well, old Vienna? It was late.
They broke into the temples, they broke into the stores, so well behaved, good friends and neighbors, double locked their doors. Oh, it's just the Jews. What else is new?
Now, friends, I look around me. I see nobody's learned. Seems there's no way to feel the pain till it's your own face that's burned. Too late to make amends. My story ends.
I invite you now into a responsive prayer. Your part is this: we remember them. Let's say that together. We remember them. This is a prayer, a responsive prayer by Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reimer, and it is dedicated to the 6 million we lost in the Holocaust. At the rising of the sun and at its going down,
We remember them.
at the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter,
We remember them.
at the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, at the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer,
We remember.
at the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn,
We remember.
at the beginning of the year and when it ends.
We remember.
As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as
We remember.
when we are weary and in need of strength,
We remember them.
when we are lost and sick at heart,
We remember.
when we have joy we crave to share,
We remember them.
when we have decisions that are difficult to make,
We remember them.
when we have achievements that are based on theirs.
We remember them.
As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as
We remember them.
Achinoam Nini, well-known Israeli-American musician worldwide, uses the mononym Noah professionally. In Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, she conveys a child's perspective of the yellow 6-point star all Jews were forced to wear during the Nazi regime. As we heard earlier, over 1.5 million children were murdered during the Shoah. Their names are played on a continual audio loop in the children's room of the Hall of Names at Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. I cannot tell you at this moment how long it takes to play the names of 1.5 murdered children, but I invite you to dig deeper. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder why you are down here. What are you doing on my father's coat? Why are you spoiling my mother's dress? No, I don't want to guess. I'd rather close my eyes like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder why you are so dim. What are you doing with a big black name sewn with a needle and a thread of shame? Maybe this is just a grown-up's game. I'd rather close my eyes like a diamond in the sky. Ooh, who am I today
right here. Hear my heartbeat where you lie. Thunder is rolling in a clear blue sky. No, I don't want to cry. I'd rather close my eyes like a diamond in the sky. Who am I today? Who was I before? Twinkle, twinkle, I will sing, for tomorrow always brings opportunities to begin again. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be carrying 6 white horses too. 1 white horse for every million. Next she's coming around for me and you. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. She'll be carrying 6 white horses too. 1 white horse for every million. Next she's coming around for me and you. Twinkle, twinkle, silent night. All is calm, but nothing's bright down here. Oh, when a mother and her child flee for their lives as they run and hide, I'm trembling inside. Please let me close my eyes and sleep in heavenly peace.
El Malay Rachamim, which translates God of abundant mercy, is the Hebrew prayer for the dead. It will be followed by the mourner's Kaddish, which praises and acknowledges the attributes of God even as we grieve.
Please rise.
El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Amtse Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina. במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמות כל אחינו בני ישראל, אנשים, נשים וטף, ונטבחו ושנחנקו ושנסרגו ושנהרגו. בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם. ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the souls of all our brethren, men, women, and children of the house of Israel who were slaughtered and suffocated and burned to ashes. May their memory endure inspiring truth and loyalty in our lives. May their souls thus be bound up in the bond of life. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Please recite the mourner's Kaddish with me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shmama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'imroma, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Please be seated.
And now it's our time to close out this program with our speaker, Robert Fortney.
At the Methodist church that I attend in Lexington, Kentucky, if we'd had a service like this already, I think pastor would say, let's pass the offering and go home. The other piece is those young people have done an amazing job, and it's hard to get up here after they have done what they've done. So again, blessings to be here with them. Greetings and good afternoon. I am Bob Fortney, or Bobby when I'm back in Oak Ridge. I am the oldest child of T. Guy Fortney Jr., MD. I want you to know that two groups of friends have been praying for each of you and also for me during this sacred hour. Some of them asking whether or not I can do this in 2 hours or less, and I assure you I will try. This has been a beautiful and powerful service of remembrance. It is a privilege for my wife, Geraldine, and I to be here with you. Emily, Chloe, and Julie, congratulations on your accomplishments and also your ability to come up here and do this. The Pew folks say that 99% of Americans are more afraid of dying than public speaking. So those are beautiful things that you're developing at your age already. My Fortney family, my wife Geraldine, my siblings Tom, Ruth, Lee, and Bill offer our thanks for this invitation and the opportunity to share with you today. And also thanks to Mayor Gooch, Cantor Marks, Ronnie Bogart, and Patsy Stacy. And I think all of us owe much to the memory of Myra Kingelman. Folks, I believe God wanted me to be here today to continue my father's legacy of telling about his experiences in World War II. He died this January 7th and was buried shortly thereafter next to his beloved wife, Betty Ruth Fortney, in Oliver Springs. Dad's obituary ran in the Oak Ridger and described him as giving presentations on what he had seen at the German camp in Ohrdruf. Becky Landry, a 69 high school graduate a classmate of mine, and Ronnie Bogart, a 71 classmate of my brother Tom, saw his obituary and reached out to invite me. Becky and Ronnie, thanks again. My father, T. Guy Fortney Jr., was born July 11 in 1924 in Harlan, Kentucky. He had a typical small town boyhood. He wanted to become a civil engineer to come back home to Eastern Kentucky and straighten out all the curvy roads. Sound familiar? But political activities in Europe and the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, changed his future and the futures of many others. After Dad's freshman year at Eastern Kentucky University, he was drafted into the U.S. Army. After basic training, he did advanced training as an X-ray technician. A month after the costly but successful Normandy invasion of France, he arrived ashore on Omaha Beach and was assigned to be a combat medic since X-ray technicians were not needed. If you've seen the World War II movies, the medics were the soldiers with the red crosses painted on the front and the sides of their helmets. Dad was assigned to General George Patton's 4th Armored Division and 10th Armored Infantry. He was a medic for a 6-man mortar platoon that rode in the back of an open half-track in convoys of tanks and other motorized weapons. And if you've been watching television lately, you've seen what a convoy looks like of motorized weapons. In December of 1944, the 4th Armored fought in the dead of winter at Bastogne, Belgium, one of the bloodiest battles of the war, with over 80,000 American casualties. This Allied victory, known as Battle of the Bulge, was a turning point in the European war and was the last offensive push by Hitler's soldiers. After Bastogne, the Germans were largely in retreat as the Allies moved west. On April 4th, 1945, the 4th Armored Division had made its way to Germany, headed to Berlin, and were at a little town of Gotha. They were sent to destroy a German communications center that their intelligence had shown to be south of this town. They located the communications center and destroyed it with no resistance since the German soldiers were in retreat. In addition, a tank sergeant had noticed what looked like guard towers in heavily forested and a hidden compound. These soldiers entered what they would learn later was North Stalag 3, or the Ohrdruf concentration camp. These first soldiers then radioed their officers, who radioed their officers, and radioed their officers until the commanding general was notified. Each radio transmission included, "You aren't going to believe this. You must come and see this for yourself." Please understand that this was the first German camp to be discovered on that April 4th. Until April 4th, that day, the world had no idea what the Germans had been doing in lots of these camps across Europe. My father was always very sensitive to the gruesome and shocking nature of his memories of what he saw that day entering Ohrdruf. We have lots of young children in the audience today, and I'm sensitive to that also. My dad was 20 years old that day. Anybody in the room 19 or 20 years old? Stand up, sir, would you? And what's your name? Levi, sir. Levi? Yes, sir. My dad was your age when he made these observations. Thank you. His platoon entered the camp in the afternoon around 3:30 p.m. And I think it's amazing that after all those years, he remembered that time, maybe not so amazing with the experience. He reported seeing very few live prisoners since most everyone had been killed by the German guards with machine guns before they retreated and left the camp, knowing that Patton's troops were very close nearby. Dad also shared that many of the prisoners had been shot in the back of the head or the throat. Evidently, those people had lived through the machine gunning. Dad and his fellow soldiers had already seen many dead bodies in their many battles, and particularly at the Battle of the Bulge. But in this camp, bodies were stacked up like cordwood and often used, quote, by liberators. Most of these bodies were sprinkled with lime. He also reported seeing a shack that was filled to the top with bodies and overflowing. To hide their activities, the Germans had also piled many bodies up and tried to burn them with pine pitch and coal, and this had not been very effective. Dad shared that most of the prisoners looked like they had been grossly mistreated by their captors, suffering from malnutrition and cuts and sores on their bodies. A detail in memory that was unique to my father was seeing a large, deep, concrete bowl that he learned from a prisoner who was still alive was used for experiments on the prisoners concerning exposure to hot and cold water. Dad also reported seeing a wooden gallows that was used to discipline prisoners. He regularly described seeing all of this as being evil, simply evil. This was evil, about as evil as anything you can think of. Dad and his unit also went by the Buchenwald camp located in Etzberg. He never entered this camp, but remembered prisoners streaming out the gates, asking and begging for the American soldiers to give them guns to use for retribution. My father was a decorated hero, having earned 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He was part of what the national broadcaster Tom Brokaw called America's Greatest Generation for answering their call to duty and defeating the Germans and Japanese in a world war. Yes, I was proud of my father when I learned of these sacrifices made in his youth. But my real admiration and respect for him came much later in his life. You see, everything I have shared to you about his World War II service was heard by me and my family members late in his life. Like most World War II vets, Dad never talked about the war and about his memories or his actions in the war. In 1983, at a family visit, my oldest daughter, Beth, who I think is listening online today, shared with her grandpa that her Lexington High School U.S. history teacher told the class that the Holocaust was not real and it was made up propaganda for the benefit of the Jewish people. As you might expect, my dad was aghast and shocked. He left the room and returned with a small, worn box of war memorabilia that we kids had never seen. It contained a small booklet from the 4th Armored Association that had a picture of the order of camp and an explanation of the 4th Armored's role in liberating it. He looked at her and said, "This really happened. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes." As a result of this experience, he also began assembling pictures from the U.S. Army and other information into a PowerPoint presentation on his laptop. This led to my middle brother Lee's daughter, Leah Beth, asking Dad to come in 2008 to Georgia to her Columbus State College class and share his experiences. In 2008, you might remember Ken Burns released his documentary on World War II. Before that, in 2007, Dad taped 2 hours of his memories with the East Tennessee Public Broadcasting folks, including his experiences with liberating the concentration camps. This led to my youngest brother Bill's daughter asking Dad to come in 2010 to Western Carolina University to do his presentation there. In addition, my brother Tom's youngest son, Thomas, joined the Navy and wanted to know all about Dad's combat medals. Dad left Oak Ridge in 2011 to move into independent living in Murfreesboro. And he began doing his presentation for residents there that included several veterans. In 2013 and 2015, he was a keynote speaker at the Middle Tennessee State University's Jewish and Holocaust Studies program. In 2018, at the age of 94, he was invited to Coffee County High School near Murfreesboro to speak to what he thought was a single English class. So he bundled up his laptop with his now well-rehearsed PowerPoint presentation, and my sister Ruth Allen drove him to the school with Dad walking in with his walker. When he arrived, he learned that all 400 of the students would be in the auditorium for his presentation. He was excited and delighted. It was so important to him that that next generation hear his message. Today, T. Guy Fortney would be delighted that Chloe and Emily are present to hear his words, as well as these other young people. And those words were, 73 years ago, I was there. This really happened. I saw it with my own eyes. This was evil, about as evil as anything you can think of. And everybody else here and the folks online listening, here are the words for us. We have to be diligent about and be ready to overcome evil, because good people can do that. Do you remember Ronnie's question and her challenge about choices as we open this service? As I close today, I hear my Father telling each of you, I wasn't a hero. I was a lowly private who mostly peeled potatoes and did my job that I was trained for. He would also remind us that he was one man among hundreds of thousands of men and women who stood up to do their duty for the freedom of the world. This also included Jerlyn's father, Jerry Snow Diggs, who fought in Patton's 4th Armored also. And I expect many loved ones of folks here today. I seem to remember there was a little project called the Manhattan Project that happened in this town. I'm not sure what that was about because everything was secret, right? May we also acknowledge and pray for all those men and women in the U.S. military who serve around the world today so that we can be gathered here with our freedom. And finally, may we pray for peace for our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine. May God richly bless each of you and your families and these United States of America. And thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody that participated, everybody that came. It was very meaningful. So as you leave today, on the tables outside are yellow bags with candles in them for you to take home and light tonight in honor of the 6 million. Thank you.